Good to see everybody again. And we're getting near that time where everybody's getting really, really hungry. The official break's going to begin at 1:30, so 1:30 to 2 p.m. But before we have that break, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, the internet of value. And the moderator for the panel, his name will be Yurik. We're going to invite him to the stage. If he's here, I have him come on up. And in the meantime, I think everybody's getting hungry. This is the hour. All right, so Yurik is on his way. He'll be here momentarily. You know, it's interesting, Ryan earlier talking about predictions and looking at what's happening in this ecosystem. I mean, who would have thought, if you would have gone back a number of years ago, who would have thought that we would be where we are today? Because if you heard some of the early, the people that were making the analysis, this wouldn't survive. This ecosystem wouldn't make it. And it wouldn't make it because it was full of bad actors. Well, here at Paris Blockchain, I think you're walking around seeing people that do not qualify as that these are business professionals. And I think one of the challenges we have in the blockchain or crypto space is that there's not enough LinkedIn professionals. Because I will tell you, that's the place where a lot of these major brands go to do business. They want to look people up. They want to know the companies that they worked for. They ultimately want to know what your values are. Because when we look in this world of morals and ethics, morals and ethics, they swing in the wind. And what they've seen from some of the people in the crypto space haven't really been the best. And this is what I like about this event at Paris Blockchain, and what they've been able to do is they're curating the top minds, the individuals that are part of the change. It is easy to see the problems. It's easy to see the challenges. Years ago when I was entering the media space, so as a journalist, I remember somebody giving me a quote, and it went something like this, that not all storms come to block your path. Some actually come to clear it. And so yes, while we've seen some early disruption, and we've seen this year some things that in a perfect world wouldn't be, it's also clearing the path. Because success leaves clues. Failure leaves clues as well. And that's what I'm excited about this event, is that every day is a lesson. All of us should come away with that one idea, that one thought-provoking thing to make us think, what did I believe before? What do I believe now? And Yurik, if you're ready, we'd like to bring you to the stage to talk about Bitcoin, the internet of value. Let's give him a round of applause.
Hello everybody, welcome to this panel about Bitcoin, the Internet of Value. My name is Yorick de Montbin, and I'm very happy to moderate this panel because it's a good opportunity to talk about Bitcoin in a conference dedicated mainly to blockchain, whatever this means. So we have 4 excellent experts to talk about that. So first, Paolo Ardino, who is CTO of the exchange Bitfinex and CTO of the stablecoin Tether. I don't know how he manages to do both jobs.
I don't have a social life.
Okay, that's a very good answer. And we are with Alicia Cao, who is MD and Head of Strategic Partner Development at KuCoin, the exchange KuCoin. Nick Carey, who is the co-founder and vice-chairman of the well-known website blockchain.com, and Nicolas Cantu, co-founder of Chain Accelerator and founder of 4NK, which is a layer 3 on Bitcoin. So we will have the opportunity to understand what a layer 3 on Bitcoin is. So we collectively decided to organize this panel in 4 topics. First, principles, second, technology, then finance, and finally, adoption. So let's start with the beginning. And let me mention that we should keep in mind that there are many other cryptocurrencies than, in addition to Bitcoin, surprisingly enough. So we should try to remember that and mention them and to compare Bitcoin with them when it's necessary. And second, we should keep in mind what happened in the previous weeks, because of course the bank crisis and other events are major steps for the cryptocurrency ecosystem and for Bitcoin. So first, what about the principles? Why is Bitcoin still important today? Who wants to answer this question, to talk about the principles of Bitcoin?
Well, I can start. So, I'm in the space since 2013, and I think Bitcoin today is more important than, or is more obviously important than in the last, few years, because this is the actual first global traditional financial crisis that Bitcoin is living through. And so more and more, Bitcoin is becoming evident as the hedge against geopolitical issues, the hedge against the monetary policies imposed by central banks around the world, right? Bitcoin is that type of money that you wake up in the morning, is in your hardware wallet, no one can take it away from you, no one can lend it out, and I think is the best sensation for in terms of financial holdings that you can have. Is the first time in humanity that someone could have access to this type of money, and so I think we have to just keep educating people that don't have the same access to tech or understanding tech compared to us about this potential Bitcoin and why is it important, and not about the speculation part, but it really has Bitcoin as an hard asset.
So for those that don't remember, Bitcoin was sort of forged out of the great financial crisis, and it was introduced to the world as an alternative financial system to enable the decentralization of the instruments that make it possible for people to exchange wealth. This is a really big deal because human beings have tried lots of different forms of money over time. We used to exchange beads and pearls. That's why you find them in the burial tombs in northern Scotland that came from the Middle East that are in prehistoric monuments. We used to try feathers, we tried gold, and we've tried paper. And so really, humans have basically invented new ways of exchanging wealth over time in the forms of new and advanced technologies and money. And so in the age of the internet, asking the question, well, what if we wanted to invent a better form of money that was fit to purpose for a time where anyone in the world needed to be able to send, receive, secure, trade and exchange wealth instantly, basically for free. And so Bitcoin was sort of the first experiment in now many experiments that have been running for over a decade, but it has been the most resilient. It's also the most valuable of all those experiments today. So Bitcoin, in a lot of ways, are the reason why there's a blockchain conference in Paris today. It has inspired billions and billions of hours of investment from engineers and entrepreneurs and developers to build the tools that are going to make it possible for more people to have access to the basic human right of controlling their wealth and exchanging that wealth with others to build a more prosperous world. And in the last few weeks, we have been critically reminded of why this is so important. Just as a little memory lane trip here, in the last 3 weeks, the Federal Reserve has added over $300 billion to its balance sheet. We've seen the collapse of two of the largest U.S. banks in U.S. history, one after another in just 36 hours, and there's more to come. Credit Suisse has been vaporized. First Republic has seen $70 billion leave its treasury. This bank is the 14th largest bank in the United States. There are thousands of other banks that are now also all underwater because of the Fed policy, and we will learn in the next 36 hours whether or not the last sitting president will be indicted, which is a crazy situation for U.S. politics. And on top of that, the Federal Reserve will have to choose between either trying to cool inflation, which is a specter destroying people's wealth around the world, or to calm the financial services industry by not raising rates. And so all of these things together are conspiring to remind us why having a type of money that you can control, that can live in a phone or on your hardware wallet, that you're able to send anybody else in the world instantly, basically for free, and has some fundamental design properties that make it useful for the age of the internet, to me is just extraordinarily inspiring. And so I am feeling the energy again in a really meaningful way, and I'm very excited to be sharing a bit about what we're seeing at blockchain.com, but also across the industry in response to this sort of extraordinary set of historical moments that we've been faced with in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I think most of people consider Bitcoin as just one of cryptocurrency, but I have to remind everybody that it's not only represent a currency, it's actually also represents a groundbreaking payment system, and it's created to solve the unsolvable problems, especially the communication in an unreliable environment. So I think my point would be short. It's all about transparency and trust.
Yes, I think it's important to understand that internet as money, and as a money, and it's Bitcoin, and as a unit, a scientific unit for the quantity of values, it's Bitcoins. And when you have a scientific unit, it can change the world, basically, because when you have a scientific unit to measure the time, to measure the energy, you don't need to have a central governance of this, of a policy with this unit, because it's physical rules. And it's a very great opportunity for the peace to be secured by physical rules, because it's stronger than state policies. So it's very important to understand the difference between Bitcoin and financial products. It's an infrastructure, it's a scientific unit, and it's a new way to share quantity of value into global networks that you cannot stop. I think it's very, very important today to have the freedom to make transactions and the freedom to issue proof, because it's also an infrastructure that allow you to commit an economical commitment into the agreement between us around the world. So it's very, very important for the freedom globally, in fact, to have this new way to be secured by an economical commitment and by a resilient infrastructure for be able to issue proof and verifiable proof.
So we see that the philosophy of Bitcoin is very inspiring, as you mentioned, but is the Bitcoin technology so inspiring? In the blockchain industry, everybody is very excited by new protocols, extreme technological sophistication and innovation. Is there the same in the Bitcoin ecosystem, or is the Bitcoin technology a bit disappointing, because at the same time it may look basic and complex and basic at the same time? What are the prospects in the Bitcoin technology evolution? Are there new revolutions in the future to be expected in Bitcoin, or are we still in the ossification theory for many years?
So I think that the layer one, so the Bitcoin-based layer, should remain simple, right? So you would expect every time you build something that you want it to last for decades, for centuries, for thousands of years, right? You think about the buildings, right? You want to use the most solid foundations. You want to create something that is simple, but extremely resistant and resilient. So I think for me, Bitcoin layer one is that, right? A set of simple primitives that can allow you to build additional layers on top of it that can be faster, that can be, maybe less or more decentralized and so on. But for example, we are seeing like network as a great example, right? Like network is a way to speed up sending Bitcoins around, and has a confirmation time that is a few hundred milliseconds, is extremely cheap to run, runs on a simple hardware, on a Raspberry Pi, on your phone. And also with other developments like RGB. RGB is a way to create additional assets on the Lightning Network. I'm proudly, with Bitfinex, we are proudly sponsoring the development of RGB. that is in some ways similar to what Lightning Labs is doing with Taro, we think that this is the living proof that having a simple base layer that you don't have to worry about, that doesn't go through like hard forks or doesn't go through like change of monetary policies that we are seeing as the other prominent layer one solutions. You know, if that is a certainty, right? In life, we need a single certainty that is Bitcoin. It will be always there, is unchangeable. No one can change it. Even us, that even people that might want to change it, right? There is no way to do it because the monetary interests around Bitcoin, you know, are so hard to change, and no one would ever take on the risk to change them. And so once you put that aside, you can still start building layers for the technologies or the use cases that you need around Bitcoin. And that, I think, is the brilliant move that Bitcoin took over the years without having to be, or without, you know, falling in the trap of trying to, you know, stay at the pace of blockchains that trying to be faster, right? So there are blockchains that have 400 milliseconds block time, while Bitcoin has 10 minutes block time. But you know, they can achieve that with the relinquishing on the decentralization aspects. Instead, Lightning Network with the addition of RGB or Taro or other solutions are proving that you can still build you know, extremely efficient monetary layers that have a really low confirmation time. They are super secure because also us in Bitfinex, we are running like a Lightning Network node with thousands and thousands of Bitcoins, and is extremely scalable, is simple to use. Merchants are starting to support Lightning payments before any other like other blockchains payments. So, I mean, it's, of course, takes time. Building on a foundation that you cannot change is the easy part. Is always trying to change the foundation to adapt to the new use cases. But actually, if you look at the long term, having a strong foundation that is simple is the best thing you can ever aim for.
So talking about layers, now everybody knows the Lightning Network, which is the second layer of Bitcoin. But what is the layer 3? Nicola, can you explain this in very simple terms so that I can explain it to my grandmother?
Yes, in simple terms, we've got a distributed network between wallets. So it's a peer-to-peer network, not a blockchain. And to make some, like the email protocol, but for the contracts, so an internet protocol for be able to make contract, signature, proof. But all of this message are anchored. We make a footprint into a layer 2. And this layer 2 has the name footprint into Bitcoin because blockchains are not secure and we cannot trust them. So the only way to secure a blockchain is to pay the security of Bitcoin for secure the block selection of the blockchains. So that's why we use a layer 2 exactly what you say, because it's quick, it's fast, it's cheap. It's able to configure if you want to build it privately, publicly. It's very easy to design. A layer 3, it's for the usage and just the way to develop new internet protocols with the Bitcoin commitments. I mean, with an equal commitment into our day-to-day internet protocols. For many different usage. It can be transactional, but it can be just for the security. It can be for the enforcement of social networks.
How many of them already exist?
RGB, Taro built it very deeply in the cryptography of Bitcoin. We have taken a simplest path to build it on the top and just issuing proof on blockchains. That's why we can have the security of Bitcoin without necessarily a specific token, without necessarily a specific wallet. You need to have key for sign, but it's not a crypto wallet. So it's directly, natively into the internet usage. to improve the usage of Bitcoin, which is the money of internet.
So just to take it back a little bit, you know, when Satoshi wrote the white paper, his intention was to build a peer-to-peer electronic cash system for the internet. And there's been a big debate about how to do that and whether or not you should quickly upgrade the protocol and make it faster to support more payments, increase the block time so that you could basically have settlement with finality more quickly. And it has been rigorously debated and argued, especially online. But most importantly is that a system that secures tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars needs to have a very slow, very deliberate path toward progress, toward achieving its missions. Any failure to do so would cause a catastrophic loss of confidence in that system. And so for over 10 years now, the Bitcoin network has been continually mining and continually slowly improving itself. And this is a big deal. It's always easy to go off and try and do something shiny and new, but to do the hard work to ensure the resiliency of the original system is a very big deal. And so Bitcoin comes with a couple features and a couple properties. One of those is worldwide decentralization, which makes it very resilient to attacks. It comes with a currency that's natively designed for the protocol. And that currency then settles with finality, which is a big deal, and you need all of those feature sets in a worldwide payment network. You need to have a currency, you need to have a transaction network that secures all the trades and basically shows who owns what, which is the blockchain, and then you have to have settlement with finality so that you can't double spend ever. And so Bitcoin achieves all those things and has become both a store of value and a medium of exchange through the layering of these faster transactional capabilities, which is really amazing work by all the engineers in the digital currency space. And so in a lot of ways, it's sort of hitting this sweet spot between being something that is extraordinarily reliable, very, very difficult to attack or change, and upgradable in a methodical way that achieves its original ambitions. And so a quick thank you to all the people that work on those things tirelessly, because you don't get enough credit for it, but we are very, very grateful for those contributions.
And I just want to remind that the 10 minutes block time of Bitcoin is extremely important, because not everyone in this world have access to fast internet lines, right? So the debate was, let's increase the speed of a settlement for Bitcoin, or let's increase the block time. So if you are living for example, in Africa or in South America, it's not easy for you to download a gigabyte every minute instead of 10 minutes, or it's not easy for you to, to process even more faster transactions, like for example in Solana, right? So I think the 10 minutes block time with a reasonable size block is also a way to make Bitcoin accessible to everyone, right? It's also about inclusion and not like trying to push everyone towards centralization, because no one could afford like 1 gigabyte block time, 1 gigabyte block size, or like 10 seconds block time with even 100 megabytes of block, right? So I think it's the perfect adjustment of block time and block size that make Bitcoin really the most inclusive currency in the world.
If we compare Bitcoin in that respect to the altcoins, or shitcoins as some may call them, are there any altcoins who made the same choice as Bitcoin, which is keep a solid layer 1 and put all the innovation and the sophistication on additional layers? Or is Bitcoin very different from all the others on that respect?
Well, to my knowledge, there is Bitcoin and there is everything else.
It's important to, I would say, suggest that a lot of these projects learn from each other. But it is an important distinction for consumers to realize that one of these coins is not like the other. And the amount of work that has gone into designing and maintaining and building and investing infrastructure to support Bitcoin far exceeds all the other cryptocurrency projects combined. Now, a lot of this work happens in an open source format. A lot of it is peer reviewed, and there are university programs around the world that have rigorous academic programs focused on all kinds of advanced cryptographic investments to make these systems more resilient over time, quantum resistant, among other things. So I won't sit here and say in 25 years there isn't some young kid in a Paris banlieue that's dreaming up of a system that might be better than anything we've seen before. I think it's arrogant to say that. But they will certainly have learned a lot by what Bitcoin has delivered to the world, and they will learn from the mistakes of many of these failed attempts to try and dislodge Bitcoin as well. And so anyone who has discounted or bet against Bitcoin in the long run has paid a hefty economic price for doing so. That being said, there's a lot of cool things that are being developed by communities that have their own ideas about what to deliver for their customers, and I think some of those things are very valid. So I will play the diplomatic line here, even though I've been in Bitcoin since 2011, and it was my first love, and it will always be there. But I admire a lot of the work that's done by some of the other groups too.
Yes. From my point of view, I think the other layer one are foundation blockchains bonds, in fact, backed by VC dollars. So that's why with Bitcoin we have a scientific unit for the value. It's not a policy. It's not an investment. It's not a thesis for evaluation of this. Bitcoin proposes no evaluation of Bitcoin in itself. It's not its proposition. So its proposition is to have a resilient way to share the value and to use the value. So that's why it's very different. In the side, we have a proposition of digital usage, but backed by a value which is not a scientific value. In another way, we got Bitcoin with all these specific, very specific properties.
Okay, so Nick, you were talking about betting against Bitcoin. So let's talk about investment. I've got some money to invest. Not much, but I sold my shitcoins. So what should I do to invest my money? Should I buy Bitcoin or should I buy shares in Bitcoin startups today? And anybody? Maybe Alicia?
Okay, so we, as a crypto exchange, we actually already listed over 700 different tokens. But today, I still want to focus on the Bitcoin. So I have to mention we got a Bitcoin mining pool because we are we're truly grateful for those Bitcoin miners that build a contribution for the whole Bitcoin ecosystem. So we serve them to provide a stable mining pool to help them to get loans, and we even help them to find more world energy resources to help them to increase their capability of their mining facilities. So I think we got hundreds and thousands users of those miners. So I think part of them are already prepared their files to IPO, and they are ready for go-to-market before next bull market. And I think it's not easy to everyone to mine their Bitcoin, and I think I believe most of the Bitcoin holders, they're purchased on some crypto exchanges. I think only a few of them are just mined by themselves because it's more and more difficult to have a machine and have a facility to mine your own Bitcoin. And I think I still believe in Bitcoin, so we are providing more and more investment opportunities for those people to also believe in Bitcoin and want to own Bitcoin. Yeah.
So on our side, Bitfinex, we are, we think that it's really important to invest in in Bitcoin-focused companies, just because, you know, they are the ones that are always forgotten by VCs. So the thing with the VCs is that, you know, a VC, for their role, right, they have to multiply the capital that they get from their investors. It's much easier to do so investing in a new token that could appreciate in price rather than investing in pure utility, right? So, of course, you can do 100, we have seen historically how you can do 100x on betting on some altcoins as a VC, rather than investing in companies that are focusing on Bitcoin and Bitcoin development or Bitcoin infrastructure, right? Because the only way to you know, to make revenues as a hedge funds or a VC invest in Bitcoin is keep growing the long-term adoption of Bitcoin and the use cases so that the world will appreciate more and more this technology and this currency. And that is actually really unfair if you think about it, because actually the best currency that we have is neglected just because there are other faster ways to make money. So at Bitfinex we took a stance, and we heavily invest in Bitcoin companies. We have heavily invested in Blockstream. We believe that, you know, what they're doing is fundamental to the industry. We are investing in RGB as a way to use the Bitcoin network to secure also the issuance of other assets. We were the first exchange or big exchange to start, you know, offering Lightning network services or liquid services. We are looking to support the production, so investment in production in renewable energies, so that we are seeing that in El Salvador, for example, between geothermal and the wind or solar, so that then there you can do Bitcoin mining. So to us is like, I would like to call for more companies that are in our space that, you know, are also earning revenues from all the other alt tokens to invest part of those revenues in actually Bitcoin development.
Talking about Bitfinex and El Salvador, when Volcano bond, because the bonds promised by the government of Salvador are supposed to be issued on Bitfinex, and it's late.
So finally, a few weeks ago, the journey to the Volcano token was, first, El Salvador had to pass a law to allow digital securities, and then establish a regulator to regulate on these new asset types. So what happened is that the law was passed a few weeks ago, and now there is a process of building a regulator. So I'm expecting that between June and September, this new asset, so this new Volcano token, will be in fact available. It's still unclear if it's going to be a bond-style product or an equity-style product, because also when there was the first idea of creating a bond-style product, the interest rates on US Treasuries were much lower. And this product, this Volcano token, should have provided 7% per year. But now that the interest rates on US Treasuries are approaching 4.5%, then it's harder to sell as a product at 7%. And so there is the interest of making, also, I think from the feedback that we got from potential interest investors is they would like to see more an equity deal and like digitalized stocks for a mining company or an energy production company running from El Salvador. That is the thing that would excite more investors.
So for the reasons stated at the very beginning of our panel, I think now is a very good time to consider getting out of dollars, pounds, or euros. Everyone in this room is losing wealth every single minute due to inflation. At some of the stated rates of inflation, your net worth will halve in the next 5 years. So it's a very important time to be having the conversation at home, across your dinner table, in your boardrooms. If you're a business owner, what are you going to do about protecting your wealth? And Bitcoin presents a very interesting alternative store of value and meme of exchange, and has for 10 years been running without interruption in a very bulletproof and resilient way. And so it continues to make a very important stand in the world of instruments that are necessary for people to protect their life savings. So without it being investment advice, if you have not yet gotten exposure to Bitcoin, now is probably a good time. If you look at it just in the context of January 1st to yesterday, yesterday hit the all-time high for this year. It is the best performing asset class once again. And because of the systemic destruction of the value of our money through centralized printing and complicated programs they use acronyms for that are very confusing to regular consumers, it is so important to go out and educate our neighbors, our family members, and more about the principles of money and sound money principle design. And Bitcoin continues to be the favorite among people that have a historical perspective on ways of protecting your wealth. And so with that being said, if you haven't already signed up for one of the services on stage or a blockchain.com wallet, you can sign up today. You can buy crypto in 90 seconds, and you can start your pathway to being economically independent and have resiliency against the shocks to the traditional financial system that are going to continue. They do not have a handle on this. I promise you that.
Can we come back to the idea of investing in Bitcoin startups? Some people say that if Bitcoin wins in the future, the value of Bitcoin startups will increase much more than Bitcoin. So if you are ready to assume some high risk, it's much more interesting to invest in Bitcoin startups rather than buying Bitcoins. Who agrees with this analysis or disagree?
I'll just say you should do both potentially, which is help support the protocol, but then also invest in the companies that are building the tools and services that help increase the utility and value of using that protocol. And that kind of gives investors specifically two shots on goal there, which is extremely interesting and one of the rare kind of ways you can deploy capital and have upside both on the equity in the company if they perform well and are governed appropriately and develop their product in a way that's useful, and also in the appreciation because of the macroeconomic dynamics, but also the utility of more adoption. When you have network effect money, the more people that use it, the more valuable it becomes. And so investing both in the protocol and in the companies in the space is super critical. And I follow Adriano's investment thesis there, which is it is really, really important to deploy it across both.
Yeah, I think of course, investing in startups is always risky, right? So 98% of the startups are usually failing independent from the technology that they are working on. So I think that it's holding Bitcoin, buy directly Bitcoin is like probably the safer bet that you can have. But you know, if we think that Bitcoin in maybe 20 years could reach a plateau in terms of volatility, then the Bitcoin startups that made it can actually be extremely valuable.
Yes, as I said at the beginning, they are an infrastructure, so an industry very linked to energy because value is directly a measure of an effort, so energy. And we're talking about industrial material. And they are the unit for measure it, the Bitcoins, and this unit, it's the money and what we value since the security that we can have with. So we can invest into the infrastructure of internet, the infrastructure of the energy management, the infrastructure of the energy transition too. We can invest into infrastructure for the new internet protocol to come, and we are in the digital age, so every industry build their internet protocols. And on another side, we have the way to value what is this unit and how can we value the security with this for all our agreements between us over the world. But I think it's very two-sided if you want to invest in the industry or if you want to invest in financial security, in fact, but with the security more than the financial aspect, I think.
Let's come to our final topic, adoption. So there are a few questions that come in my mind. First, where are we? What is the level of adoption of Bitcoin now? Is it satisfying or is it disappointing? Second, what are the prospects? Where are we going? At which rhythm? How? And third, what can we do? Each of us in our own position, what are we doing and what can we do to improve adoption? Maybe Alicia, from the point of view of an exchange?
Yeah, I want to talk about the network effect. I think the whole Bitcoin industry is still in a very early stage. So we still need more and more people to participate and to use Bitcoin. So imagine if one day we got 100 million of people that to use Bitcoin, and if more and more people use KuCoin, then more and more merchants and company would accept Bitcoin as a payment or maybe other cryptocurrencies. But we still need like more people to join, to participate the ecosystem. So what we could do, because we are a centralized exchange, and we know that one day I think the industry will ultimately move towards to decentralization. So what we could do for now is to help as much as people we could help to let them to trade Bitcoin, to purchase Bitcoin easily and efficiently on a safety platform. So we also provide some of the fiat currency gateway to help people to purchase cryptocurrency, include Bitcoin and other altcoins via their local currency. They could easily buy crypto from their local currency. I think the most important thing is to do the user education. So we don't want to the market to become an irrational market. We want to tell them more that it's not only about trading, it's about revolutionize, it's about technology, and it's about like how to trade Bitcoin or other crypto currencies with more informed and more reasonable, and to build a more reasonable and more a better community of trading community. Yeah.
I'll take a quick moment on this one, and I'll be fast so that our fellow panelists can finish up as well. Let's just take a moment. You know, if we look back, if 3 years ago, 4 years ago, someone had told me that there would be roughly 200 million people in the world that own some cryptocurrency, that Bitcoin would be $28,000 today, I would be absolutely ecstatic. We have achieved a lot so far, but we do have a ways to go. And there are a few things that we should all work together on to achieve further adoption. And number one is you should all go, and if you set up a wallet for 5 of your friends, be generous. Send them $20 or $50 worth or euros worth of Bitcoin, and teach them how to use non-custodial wallets. Again, that is so critical to teach them the concept of decentralization and why we're in this in the first place. Secondly, we need to call out bad actors. People that have been showing up here as tourists and raising tons of money and then disappearing with it is atrocious for our space. And so it is so important to follow the individuals that have been here from the early days, that have consistently built products. The flight to safety is through reputation, and ultimately you shouldn't really trust anybody. Trust the open source technology, but also look at the software, how long it's been in market, how long have the people been building on these things, and we need to do a better job of self-policing in our space. And then finally, if we want to get to 1 billion users, all it takes is everybody that already owns some Bitcoin to get 5 other people to own some. And if we do that, we'll hit 1 billion users in the next few years, and we'll be well on our way to worldwide adoption. So that's a little bit of a challenge to everybody. I'm going to try and do a lot more than 5, but I need a lot of help from other people too.
Well, I can just say that at Bitfinex and Tether, we are in the trenches of trying to, in different countries between Switzerland and El Salvador, to push for adoption from the merchant side. Is all about infrastructure and education. So I think is unfair to go to merchants that are, you know, they sell bread or they sell pizzas or whatever, pupusas, and trying to push them to move their entire economy onto Bitcoin. And so they need technology in order to start accepting Bitcoin as they would accept payments in a Japanese yen debit card, and then slowly but steadily learn about Bitcoin and then move towards having a portion of their monthly income into Bitcoin. So we realize that, and so the things that we are doing, the infrastructure that we are bringing both to El Salvador and Switzerland is all about giving options to the merchants and not forcing them in a single option and a single decision. And I think that is going along really a long way and seeing results in Lugano, that is a small city in Switzerland. We are seeing more than 200 merchants that already are accepting Bitcoin and Tether payments. And I think we are soon seeing in El Salvador, adoption is growing, although not as fast as we wish. And also, but I feel like we need to be patient, and we cannot pretend that Rome was built in a day. I remember, really quickly, I remember when I was a kid and the euro was going to replace all our national currencies here in Europe. I mean, it took 5 years to start approaching people from 95 to the year 2000, to approach people, explain people how the euro was going to replace the Italian lira or the French franc and so on. And in the end, it was forced onto people, right? Bitcoin is an option to people, so it's a much better story, it's a much better way to deal with things, but also it means that it will take more time to see adoption. I'm sure that if you were asking people in Europe in the year 1999 if they would like to switch currency, they would have all say, no, I want to keep my national currency. And so it's unfair to pretend that Bitcoin adoption can happen from one year to another. I'm saying this because I'm seeing a lot of mainstream media pointing the finger to El Salvador saying, well, in 1 year you didn't have much adoption. Yeah, sure, but that is still optional, and it requires time. It would be 100% adoption if the El Salvador would have forced Bitcoin onto everyone like Europe did.
And if you ask today, what is an euro, no one knows in the street. No one knows what is it, what it represents, how we calculate it. No one knows what is the euro, but they are afraid to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is easiest to understand than the euro. I think a lot of people suffer from the fiat, and Bitcoin is for the pleb, and for the mass adoption, I think we need to build and to be focused for the services of the pleb, and not regarding regulation or things very, very insignificant at the end regarding what Bitcoin can offer.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So as a way of conclude, I like what Alicia said, and I would like to quote her. It's not only about trading, it's about revolution. So thank you to the speakers, and thanks to everybody.